education. Parents are the first teachers, and so, you know, you guys are very important. And the time we get to spend with them here on a day-to-day basis is reinforced by you at home. So we appreciate you coming out on a night like this on a Thursday night, giving your time to try to spend learning about how to help your child is just, I think, will have dividends that will pay off in the long run, and some things that we may never actually see with our eyes, but our children will experience as time goes by. And I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to do that. And I hope this is something we can grow, this type of activity. I want to say thanks, first of all, to Miss Casey Williams. She said, please don't introduce me, and please, she's been so worried. And I told her, you guys, there are no hecklers in the crowd, and she's got an easy group to speak to. I said, hey, everybody's here, signed up to be here, right? They didn't pay to get in, so we're good. But she has spent quite a bit of time and effort preparing just a summary of what the new math standards are about and how we go about dissecting those and putting them into play. And then maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes or so of this first part will be her discussing that with you, and she's going to give you an opportunity to ask some questions. But then you're going to break up. Second grade is going to go to the gym, right? First grade will stay here, and then kindergarten folks will go to the library. And so there you will have some of our teachers. I will say thank you to my teachers also. Not everyone could be here tonight. And so I do appreciate those who were able to come, even some daughters of teachers and friends of teachers and other family members who are here that said, hey, I'll pitch in and help out also. So thank you very much. Our intern, one of our interns from UNA, or at the UNA, she's also with us tonight. So it's good to see people willing to give a little time and do something like this for our kids. So thank you once again for being here. Without putting you off any longer, I will turn it over to Ms. Casey Williams.
Before we get started, I have handouts that I want to give everybody. Kindergarten, first, and second will all get a different handout. So if you're kindergarten, Mr. Hand will have your packet. If you could just kind of let him know. First grade, Miss Lynn's is going to have your packet. And second grade, Miss Graham's going to have your packet. And you'll find in the packet there's going to be a math research, I learned a lot of new things. I learned that we do things a lot different. And my husband, he's kind of, I guess, what you would call like an old soldier fight. Well, I think if the math the way I taught it, you know, when I was in school, should be fine now. And my response is, well, your grandparents thought outhouses were great, do you? You know, I mean, times are changing, and to keep up with our kids, we have to change as well. So tonight, I just want to welcome you to Math Night, first of all, and I want to just give you a brief overview of the history of Common Core, why Common Core is important, why we use multiple strategies in the classroom, give you some ideas on ways to support your child at home, and I'll take any questions. Keep in mind, I'm just a parent like you, so if I don't know, I'm simply going to say, I don't know. Okay? I'm not going to try and come up with something. So, in 1989, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, known as NCTM, released a curriculum and evaluation standards for school mathematics. And the way they did this was they did it in grade bands. They said that pretty much this is what your kids need to know in K through 4, this is what your kids need to know in 5 through 8, and this is what your kids need to know in 9 through 12. And they said that to be successful in the workplace, children need to know how to be problem solvers. They need to not only be able to look at the math equation, but they need to know ways in their own minds to solve the problem. They need to be able to communicate the problem to other people. And they should have reasoning behind what they're doing. So in 2000, every state had, the NCTM came up with all these standards, but every state had the ability to pull their own assessments and their own strategies and build their own curriculum based off those standards. So what we had was people in Georgia and people in Alabama and people in Tennessee could be doing totally different things in 2nd grade or 1st grade. So if we had a child move from Alabama to Tennessee, the ones in Alabama could be working on one thing and the ones in Tennessee would be doing something totally different. So the state said, we would like for you to kind of narrow it down for us. So NCTM in 2000, they updated the standard. They made content strands, which said that kids need to be able to use number and operation, algebraic expressions, geometry, measurement, and data. They also needed to be able to process the content that they were looking at. Problem solving, reason and proof, and communication was already there. They added connections and representation. Representation means, and connections means that kids need to be able to look and show ways of what they're looking at. Like 10 plus 3, they need to know that 10 ones equal 10. That's a base 10. And you would be amazed at how hard that is sometimes to get kids to understand that 10 ones equal 110. I know that sounds crazy, but that's something we kind of struggle with. And while most states use the NCTM standards for content and process as a starting point for defining grade level expectations, there were significant differences in what was learned at a particular grade level and how student progress in achieving the standards was assessed. States made large investments in writing, revising, and assessing those standards. Like I said earlier, you would have one state that was doing something, another state that was doing something totally different, and it just caused confusion when, you know, a child would move here or there. California may be way above Alabama in math. So Common Core kind of brings all that together and puts everybody on the same page. And the U.S. has a local control with no central ministry of education. I don't know if you know, and I didn't know until I started really researching this, is other countries that are really successful in math, like A+ countries in math, they have a central ministry of education. Well, the United States does not have that. It is up to the states, prior to Common Core, to set their own curriculum. What they said is, we were learning in the United States a mile wide and an inch deep with math. We were covering all this information, but our students weren't getting it on a deep level. We were learning this much information, but only this much about it. So Common Core, what it to learn and let us dig deeper about what we were learning. Common Core was initiated in 2009 by the National Governors Association. It happened in a governor's meeting. There were Democrats, there were Republicans. They all decided together, believe it or not, to get on the same page and come up with a Common Core standard. They knew we were putting all this time and all this effort into creating our own state standards. Why don't we all get together, put our heads together, and do something that we can use nationwide? Their objective was to create common standards for mathematics and English language arts across all states. Their goal was to ensure that students leaving high school were prepared for college and career and could compete on a national level. We have to look at it that if students in other countries that are A+ countries in math can do it, why can't we? Why can't our students do it? And you may see that by some of the stuff that your kids are bringing home. You may see that we're learning things a little faster. You know, we're upping the ante a little bit because we want to be on the same level as everyone else is. Common Core was released June the 2nd of 2010, and by June of 2013, 45 states had adopted Common Core. And like I said, the A+ countries, once Common Core became adopted by those 45 states, we had researchers that went and made sure that the Common Core standards that we have align with the Common Core, or with the standards of those A+ countries, and they did. They looked at all those people who were scoring really high nationwide on math tests and looked at our Common Core standards, and they were closely aligned to what those other nations were teaching as well. So we're moving in the right direction. Common Core has a commitment to balance. The children need to be able to understand have conceptual understanding. They need procedural fluency, and they need to be able to use meaningful applications. They need to be able to use manipulatives to show what they're thinking. They need to be able to draw pictures. They need to be able to understand it and explain it to someone else. These are the standards for mathematical practice, and this is nationwide standards. All the 45 states who have adopted this is the standards for mathematical practice. And what that is, like it says here, there are various ways in which proficient practitioners of math carry out their work. To be able to make sense of math and persevere in solving the problems, they need to be able to reason abstractly and quantitatively. They need to be able to construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. And it's amazing to watch that number 3. If you're in a classroom, I was actually subbing in a classroom here, and I got to see number 3 just kind of unfold before my eyes. Every kid does not do it the same way. One kid may really grasp a strategy that another kid doesn't. And I put a challenge problem on the board, and I told him, I said, show me your strategy. And it was amazing to sit, and then I wrote the answer on the board. I said, if you got the answer right, stand up. And the ones that stood up, there were 3 that got it right. I mean, it was a really tough challenge question. There were 3 that got it right, and I let each one come up to the smartboard and show me their strategy, and all 3 used a different strategy. But they were able to show why that worked for them. And the other kids were like, oh, wow, ding, 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 that might work for me. You know, so that's really important. They need to be able to model with mathematics. That's just using manipulatives. They need to be able to use appropriate tools strategically, attend to precision. You know, when you have more than one strategy, it's easier to check your work to make sure that you're right. Look and make use of structure, and look for and express regularity in repeated reasoning. This is a question that everybody seems to ask. Why so many strategies? Why can't we just do the old algorithm? Why can't we just stack and, you know, do it the way we did it? Let's borrow, you know, and that's fine. They've got to know how to do that. And that's not a wrong way to learn, but that may not be the best way for your child. You know, there are other ways that they could look at it. As students explore alternate strategies, they are developing a conceptual understanding of each operation. They need to know that 5 plus 3 and 3 plus 5 is the same. You know, you have 8. If I have 3 plus 5 here, and I flip it to 5 plus 3 here, they need to know that that's the same, 8 and 8. Deepening their understanding of the base 10 system, that's big, that goes with them throughout the rest of their academic career through high school. I mean, that's huge. Learning about relationships between operations, using the commutative property, associative, and distributive property, and being able to confirm their answers. I found this interesting. Researchers at MIT and Stanford, John Seeley Brown and Richard R. Burton, documented 120 different errors that students made when trying to use the standard algorithm or double-digit subtraction. 120 errors. Because writing those little ones up there, sometimes that can get confusing. You have little hands, you know, and sometimes it can really get confusing. We have to look at what's best for our kids. Do all kids prefer the same strategy? You know, no. Should kids be introduced to multiple strategies? We got to be sure that they are accurate, that they are efficient, transparent, make sure that they're easy. Transparency is big. I mean, if you think that we get confused as adults, can you imagine as a little 7-year-old how they must feel? You know, the more transparent that we can make a problem, the better for them. So now, the fun part. Let's look at some transparent strategies for double-digit addition and subtraction that are not very error-prone. So I'm going to do some problems here, and I want this to be interactive. I want you guys, if you have a question, please ask me. I mean, and like I said, if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. But don't let me make a math error up here. But is this the way that we all know how to stack a problem? Yeah. This is how we were basically, you know, there's no trouble here because we're not having to carry anything. 6 plus 2 is 8. 5 plus 3 is 8. Y'all
No. Have you got black marker?
Okay.
That's the problem.
Okay.
I can see it.
So I'm just going to show you a few other different ways to do this. Like I said, I'm not saying that this is wrong at all. If your kid gets that, great. If they grasp that, great. But if they're struggling, you can look at these other strategies, and I promise this will come. It will come. If they can get these other strategies down, if they're struggling with this, then this will come. This way, and would everybody agree that's the same? We can say 2 plus 6 is 8, and 5 plus 3 is 8. So you have 88. Okay, and this is my favorite that I'm going to show you here. It's a way that the kids can use pictures. I mean, and when you, on these, it may seem like, oh, well, I mean, this is just simple. But as we progress and as the problems get harder, you can see how these strategies can really unfold and help your kid. So we're going to make pictures here. My lines are going to be 10. The kids in here count with me. Ready? 10,
30, 40, 50,
51.
52.
So we have 52 plus what? 36. 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in a kid's mind, how easy is this? Now let's add it. Ready, kids? Better? So we start with 52, and we've got to add how many? 36. So we're going to jump by 10. So we're at 62. We're going to jump by 10 more. Now we've jumped 20, right? So we're going to jump 10 more. Now we've jumped 30. So how many more do we have to jump? 6. So we can jump by 5 and by 1. Let me show you what I did here. We started at 52 and we jumped 36 places. We jumped 10, 10, 10, 5, and 1. So using a number line, we got to our answer of 88. Does everybody see that? Does anybody have any questions about any of these strategies? Y'all please don't be shy.
I'm just going to say, from the classroom standpoint, for kindergarten and first grade, that knowing that 52 to 62 to 72 to 82, knowing that's 10 apart, that's a really big deal, development.
Yeah.
It's not that you're off, it's not that you're above or below, but to understand that and to show them the pictures and have the manipulatives makes a big difference, because by the time they get to second grade, if they don't understand that 52, 62, 72 concept, it makes it hard. So what you're doing helps build that from kindergarten to first.
Up to second. Yes, that's a great point. Thank you. And that's why we work on, and another standard is skip counting. What skip counting is, if you've never heard that, that's like you've got to skip count by 10 to 100. That's literally just 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So those kids know at 52, 10 more is 62, 72, 82. They know that. They're quick to that. And without building the skip counting, it's hard to do this. Without doing this, it's hard to move on. Everything kind of ties together, and it all has its place.
Can I chime in for just a second?
Yeah.
And what I find in second grade a lot of times is we'll ask them, can you skip count by 10? And they're all like, well, yeah, 10, 20, 30. And I'll say, no, start at 34. So for first grade parents and even second grade parents, really build on that. Okay, you can skip count by 10, starting at 10, but start them at different points. Start them at 24. Can they go 24, 34, 44, 54, and on and on? Because that's some of the biggest gaps that we see too, is they're like, oh yeah, they can skip count, and I'll get them back there and work with them, and it's going from the different numbers. And with that being said, how she's talked in the PowerPoint on place value and the base 10, it is crucial. The place value is huge. If they understand place value, this is so easy for them. They fly through it. They know that that's a 50 and a 30, that's 80. They can just look at it and tell exactly what it is. So place value is huge, and combinations of 10 are huge. The first probably month of school, that's all I spend time on is skip counting at the different locations, and then the place value and their combinations of 10. If they know that, all of this is it's a breeze for them.
Hey, Ms. Williams, while we're there, I noticed we have some teachers also here from RAT, teach math. We also have Ms. Sterling here from middle school. She's my daughter's math teacher. And so we may have some other folks here, but would y'all like to add to the conversation that's what's already been mentioned about what you guys are seeing? Because they're going to leave here and go to these schools next. So what would be helpful for parents to know?
We were just agreeing with what you said. Place value, when they come in, it's like they've never seen it before. So it's real big. They know place value and that. Just asking them questions and making them do things over and over.
Okay. Anybody else from RAT?
Well, that's what this was, third, fourth, and fifth.
Yeah,
They
third, fourth,
kinda
and fifth,
going,
right
yeah.
Sixth grade, Ms. Sterling, anything you'd like to
I
add?
just want to say the foundation has got to be there. So that's why I'm here too, because I want
dollars. And I'm a parent too, and Miss Sterling, I've had to ask her to come into my office when she used to come here and pick up her child. Show me how to help my daughter do sixth grade math the way I'm talking about here tonight. So there's no shame in not knowing. It's just a shame if you choose to stay that way. So we have to help our kids. I mean, they do need our help. Miss Spencer, if you don't mind, we'll take just a couple more minutes. Miss Spencer she's a special ed teacher here, but she's brought a lot of good ideas with her. Would you stand up and just tell us a little about rocket math? And some parents have probably heard about rocket math. Just take a minute or so and explain about that.
Some of your students might be doing it. We started in a few with first and second grade classrooms. Rocket math, one of the key components a lot of kids using with the math now is automaticity. We teach them how to do A is A, B is B, but we don't teach them 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3. And rocket math starts out on level A and goes through Z for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But it teaches that automaticity. They practice for 2 to 3 minutes with a partner. The partner has the answers. The other person is doing problems. And it starts out really simple. 1 plus 1, 2 plus 1, 1 plus 2. At each level they move up, a problem is added. And it's to get them to think quickly about how this math is done. Because when you get to algebra, and hopefully they look at trig and all this, you can't do that if you're going 2 plus 1 is. And sadly, I saw a second grader do that when we first started doing rocket math, and I thought, oh, this is desperately needed because they should be able to go 2 plus 1 is 3. So that's what we're trying to do with that, is develop that authenticity to go with all of these skills. Does anybody have questions about that? Like if their child's brought it home?
Thank you all.
And this is I'm just going to show you how it kind of steps up and why these strategies are important. So now we're going to look at, this is how it would be written, how we learned it, and this is how we would solve it. 6 plus 4 is, and we carry our 1, which is really a 10. 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So little hands may get confused about carrying that 1, which is really a 10. You know, that can kind of be confusing sometimes. So, and how I would write it is like this. And what I would say to my students is, I want you to look at these numbers, and if you know that they are going to equal more than 9, I would say, is trouble coming? Yes, trouble's coming. That means we got to do something. You know, we can't just write a 9 here because it's more than 9. So they have to know by looking at this, okay, trouble's coming. So what strategy can I use that I know to help me make this transparent? So one way that you can do it is break it down into place values. We can say 50 plus 4 and 30 plus 6. Okay, what's 6 plus 4?
10.
10. What's 50 plus 30?
80.
What's 80 plus 90? I mean, 80 plus 10. I gave you the answer, my bad. What's 80 plus 10? Can you see how this could be more transparent in the eyes of a child than this? Because this is 50, and this is 4, this is 30, and this is 6. So if they learn this way and they got it, hey, they got it. But if they don't and they struggle with carrying this, then why not let them try this? I mean, it's the same thing. You know, it's just a little more transparent. It's easier for some kids to just write that piece. Don't carry that 1, just write it. We're just going to write it a different way. We can also do this by pictures. But remember, is trouble coming? Yes. So when we do this, we're going to write 10, help me out, 20,
30, 40, 50.
how many 1s do I need?
4.
Okay, now I've got 36. How many 10s do I need?
3.
10.
20, 30.
How many 1s?
Raise your hand if you're confused. To me, I mean, if you give kids too many options, they're going to get more confused than giving them one or two set ways. And I work with robotics. And I learned old school way. And I have yet to ever run into a math problem like this.
I want to show you something that happened to me this year.
Well, but you sort out too, like you'll sort out with pictures and then you'll move to this.
Yeah, we don't throw every strategy at the same time.
And they'll move on to it. Like right now, I mean, a lot of them can solve that in their head. They'll look at it and say, oh, that's nice. And they won't ever have to do it.
All right, do you remember seeing tens, ones, like that? That's old school. Do you know what my kids did? They said 5 plus 4 is 9, 3 plus 2 is 5, so that's 14. And I'm thinking, well, it is. You know why? Because they didn't understand that these went up in days. Developmentally, they need options, and that's what I was just saying. And I'm not talking about struggling math students. I'm talking about students that are above average. And she said, well, why don't they just put the numbers closer together? I said, well, because they want to know if you understand ones and tens. And clearly she did not.
And you can stick with one way, how we were taught, but they don't understand why they're doing it. And that's the whole thing.
Right, but do they understand why they're doing it this way?
Why they're
No,
doing it.
yes and no. No, she didn't. She didn't understand tens and ones. And that's what I went to the other teachers and I said, why is she doing that? She said, well, she doesn't understand place value. But she's supposed to know that by the time she got to me. So how did she miss it? Well, she didn't have something that worked for her. Because I know those teachers taught it. I've been in their rooms, I saw it. And it's just the way that your brain can think about robotics and mine goes, ah! And so it's because developmentally, they just learn at different paces.
Well, and didn't you mention the goal or the end result would be that they could go back to stacking the numbers old school way?
Right, and like I say, if
your
your child grasps that and it works for them, seriously, like, go with it, you know? But if the child is struggling with carrying a little number, you know, we feel like it is best to give them some different options. But like, if they don't need it, and if they've got it, and they're not struggling at all, and they understand that, you know, the older way, then that's fine. You know,
Okay,
I mean, that's
but when
totally
they get to
fine.
taking ASVABs and ACTs, it's going to be a time test. They're not going to have time to do pictures.
They want the
Now,
time to
15,
find
20
out.
minutes.
Yeah, like, this is like how, you know how I talked about how place value is really important towards the older grades? We feel like that showing them that this is the 10th place, and this is not 5, it is 50. And this is 1, so that's a 4. This isn't 3, it's 30. So we're trying to why before they get old enough to do the ASVAB or to do those older tests, to develop a deep understanding of place value, so when they take those tests, they'll know that's 54, not 5 plus 4.
Getting away from memorization and into deeper understanding.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
and see, and I will say, I hated Common Core. I mean, me and Austin learned what a 10th grade was together. I mean, I had no clue what all that mess was. And coming from, like, doing it the old way, he can spit out problems the new way a whole lot faster than he can do it the old way.
And
But
it's
it
really
took
not
me,
new,
what,
it's just
kindergarten,
deep.
first grade,
It's
and
baby
now to
steps
do it.
too. Like, yes, now they could go take the ACT because they are having to do that. But the hopes are by the end of 2nd grade, they look at that across there and they spit it out, they got it.
Yeah, and I'm a believer in Common Core like this way now because of what I've seen him do. But it took me a while to get it. I didn't like it at first.
Yeah, and I appreciate you telling, you know, voicing your opinion. I do. I mean, because that's realistically where we are. You know, I mean, we are having to learn new ways, and we're bringing things home that are confusing, and that is not what our parents learned. You know, but fortunately or unfortunately, either way you look at it, that is the direction that our education system has gone. And if we don't, as educators and as parents, kind of keep up, you know, with the times and the pace, I'm afraid that our children are just going to be left behind. But it is new, and I appreciate that your opinion.
You know,
And you
my
voicing
school,
that
when I was in
concern.
school, they tried to do Common Core. And about 3 months and they give a boot. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just too many options.
But we were
I
having
understand they need different ways of working problems out. I agree with that.
Yes, yes.
But, I mean, you know, it's just a little bit much.
I think when you see some of her games, it'll make more sense, because I was a little nervous, and she came and showed me what she's doing, and all of a sudden you went, well, that's not so hard after all. So when you see some of the games she does with the kids, make sure you stay for that part.
Right, when you got a kindergartner that comes home every day and says, I hate school. He's not gonna care by the time he gets to high school, because he already doesn't care.
Ms.
But
Cole,
speaking of-
Ms. Cole, that's one thing we had a comment, it's a good time to give in.
I work with, I'm an IT project manager, I do robotics and snap service with the kids, and I get what they're saying because I do with some 7th graders. So it's even better when it's like, even if you add the 100 place, you say at 576 and 676, they had it. And so basically, I did a trick with them. I said, I want you to do it your normal way. I said, we're not going to get the same answer. I said, okay, you work it and I work it. And I showed them, like here with the, 10th place, it's not as big impact, I think, when they start doing it with the 100th place.
Yeah.
And we actually came, and he was like, Miss Coley, you mean to tell me I can bring my one down here? So he'll see the 10, and that's the 1 place. And so he did the 1, then we do the 10s and the 100s. He said, well, it's easier because I can answer that in 5 seconds. Versus if I had those 3 digits, I can't do that. And I didn't even tell him what my point was. He was like, oh, it's much easier. And it's also building confidence with math as well.
Right, but if they lose all interest in it before that ever gets there, you're finally losing out.
Yeah.
If they don't care, they're not gonna listen either way.
See, I have 2 different kids. I have one kid that can do it in his head, and then my daughter, she would need some other activities, other options. And that's what they're saying. If your kid can do it like in their head, the normal way, or you might have a kid that has to have a little more pictures and a little more relationship with the numbers. And so, because what I asked when I put the problem up, I said, write an algorithm to get me to this answer. And everybody was telling me, oh, you add the 5 and the 6. I'm like, well, where am I going to put it? I'm the robot, you tell me. And I wouldn't look until they said the 1's place. And that's a big thing that they're missing is the place value. And that's why it's hard for them to get the concept.
And I'm just gonna say, that's why we're here. We don't want that. And that's why you see a lot of teachers here. We don't want the child to say, I don't. So that's why we're here, and when we hear your choices and opinions, that helps us change something we're doing,
Right.
and it also helps us learn something.
Right. I'm not knocking you by
Right.
any means. I mean,
But
all
you are
of it.
exactly right.
But you understand what I mean?
I do.
If a child loses interest right off the bat, it doesn't matter how you teach it. It's never going to
But that's where we think maybe different strategies too.
Have to not get answered.
I tell you what, let's do, you're getting, just for the sake of interest of time, we have a little within the building, and we want to try to respect our time. I know we're a little bit long on this part, and that's great, because that shows that a lot of folks are interested, there are a lot of thoughts, that's good, and I appreciate what all has been said. And certainly, these are just options, these are just things that lay out before you, or just, these are things that help us improve. So, appreciate that. Is there anything, just, it's about 15 or 7, so I guess we need to sort of look at breaking it up. I don't want to cut you off, you had some really big pieces you want to have before we break up into groups.
So mainly what I wanted you guys to understand is there are different strategies. We can use the place value. The pictures seem to be really valuable. The understanding of the number line is huge. I've had several other pages to show you examples, but for the sake of time, if you have any questions, there's a sign-in sheet when you break off into your groups. First grade is going to be in here. So if you're a first grade parent, if you would sign in on the sign-in sheet once we break up, and if you would write your email address down, I will be more
This is something our teachers are using here. If you go to the App Store, there's an app. It's in yellow background with black Alabama State map. And she's mentioned a lot about Common Core. And that's for the overall name that it's brought up in discussions. Alabama has what it's called its College and Career Ready Standards, which is its statewide version of Common Core. But you can actually download this app. It's free. Like I said, it's a yellow background with black map. It has all of the standards for every grade level.
And I also printed those off for you. In your packet, you will have your grade level state standards. Those are things that, by law, we are required to teach your child. Before they get out of that grade, they should know what's in that packet, those standards. So you have all that with you. So if you're in kindergarten,
it's called photo map. If you get a doctor, what you got right there, you will take your phone, and it will take a picture of it and install it and write that. Give you an example to see.
Hear that? Photo map.
Photo map.
Take a picture of a problem and it works it out. It's just the
It's not necessarily cheap, I would say, but it's real cheap.
so what you'll do is you'll start, you'll play against each other. And one of you will stand here.
Okay, so you got 68. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, it'll be the kids against the
Can you count them for me?
And you'll stand here and you'll pause.
There we go. You
And
do it.
whatever,
Oh, those are two.
no, you can't keep it. But whatever it goes in, you have to fill that cup with that money using the least amount of points as possible. Okay?
One more time. Please mark the point.
So y'all versus them, okay?
Alright, so I'm going first.
No, it's always kids go first.
It's ladies first. And
She's a lady.
Explain to me what your teacher How do you play?
Where are we supposed to?
We're gonna try to make a bingo.
Oh, this is
It's like the next forward.
I'm a 60.
I'm a student number less than 60, greater than 50. Very good. You're going to put it right there. If you're trying to get 4 in a row, you're going to I have 7 I'm less than 40, yes.
I'm a teens number. I'm more than 13. I'm the next number in the pack. 10, 12, 14.
Who has
I don't know you, but hi. Mama.
That's right.
Oh, I can reach.
Stand down there.
5 plus 2. 7.
That's right. Auburn. We almost had it. Smart girl. She worked well with them, haven't you?
Oh yeah. Try to anyway.
Smart girls.
I got 3. I beat you.
Uh-oh, mine. 4 plus 3. 7. There we go. Alright, your turn.
Daddy, how many I have?
You got same too. What does that mean, the race? Let me see.
No, smarter than the
Oh no, you need one. Now, you both need how many?
1.
You both need
1 plus 1 is 2.
Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm out. You go. Oh. Close. Yes, sorry.
1 minus 6 equals 7.
1 what?
1 minus 6.
What's that?
I mean equal.
Plus.
I mean plus.
Okay. All right.
1 plus 6 is 7. I'm so good at looking at it. 1 plus 1 equals 2. I never do that.
Yes, how are you doing?
Try to do.
All right.
He'll just sit back.
I'll give you a call. We're going to have a meeting probably the first week in March.
Yeah, get him another one. I can get it on tape.
And that's your, doing mediation on Monday and Wednesdays. I start that this coming high school. So I'll be there on Monday and Wednesday all day. So you may be able to.
You'll start this Monday?
This coming Monday.
Okay. Well, you know the girls and boys better. Yeah, I probably would if I were.
I'm thinking I probably won't have a whole lot of students for that. That actually works out good. Fundraiser that I have to pay too.
Gotcha. So after Monday, we can get together.
I'll be there Wednesday.
That'll work. That'll work. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you both need one again.
He does good, isn't he?
No, do it right here.
You can. I walk.
I don't always mean this like this is he's non-stop. Like when he's running some problems. You make it harder. It is.
Number 6, number 7.
We're veering away from it because our kids don't want it.
Okay.
Find the knife.
No, let's do it.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's try it. Which guy do you want?
Bring your sheet with you.
Have you already been going to go to this one? Start that one.
Come in here.
You don't need one day. All right, write your name on it.
Number detectives. I mean, your card. And you got.
You played this one out? 17. Okay, What number do you see in your star? 18. So you have to find all of the extra grades. Use your magnifying glass. Bring them to highlight all the numbers that match in it.
Good job.
I know she loves coming to school.
She's got a big heart.
I appreciate that.
Y'all take care. Thank you for coming. With the Jones history and parents board.
Actually, I was at, Daddy made me add that one.
Oh,
I guess that was just
there you go. Two purposes. I don't. I have 2 brothers.
all right. We're looking for 18. Can you find an 18? Kaylee? Okay. Can you find one 8? 18.
Steph was in 2012. She was between
There's one coloring.
West.
No, I'm fine.
This is her little sister. Yes. Well, I remember seeing him come here one day.
Yeah.
And he was
Look, he's taking off.
I remember. And Steph was 2012. Yeah, and Steph was 2012.
Look, right there. See it? Let's mark it. Good.
Second. Well, then you can teach them how to do that. This will be a breeze for
Good
you.
deal. All right, so if you can find another 18.
I just felt in my head, always come back, always come back. But I didn't know I was coming forward. Because I always have my big numbers first.
Exactly, and that's the wonderful thing about Common Core. It gives you all these strategies that you can pick
What are
one
you doing?
that works best for you.
Would you try a bigger number?
Absolutely. Here's your eraser. So we play with you. I can't play right now. I'm a little sister.
Try this one.
She's got her crazy bail.
Hey, who's that right there?
Try that one now.
Okay.
Are you sassy?
She said, yeah, no, I don't want to play. You know how that is. She said it is fun if Daddy would play right. He's making her add and subtract. Yeah, he's making it hard. That makes it real hard when you add.
I do stuff with it all the time.
Now, here's your shot spray. Okay.
Always made it.
Okay. It says, look, it says make sure you have 10 pencils in your cup. So count one and make sure you got 10.
Do you like to subtract or add there?
When you get your roll,
Like the add or subtract?
So we need to work on subtraction. That's mine. They'll always do the same problem.